Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day one, the first day of the Christmas Craft Countdown for 2024. Over the next 20 days, I'll be sharing a brand new Cricut Christmas project every day. The downloads will be free for 24 hours each day, but you need to get a free ticket in order to be emailed reminders. To do that, go to craftwithsarah.com/Christmas24. Today's project is a big one. We're starting out with probably the most impressive project from this whole countdown, if not the most impressive project that I've ever made, and it is this wonderful fireplace Santa Advent calendar. Each day throughout Advent, you'll pull a box out of the Advent calendar to reveal the chocolates, sweets, candy, or whatever else you want to hide inside them. As the boxes come out, Santa falls a little bit further down the chimney every single day until you get to Christmas Eve, and then you have a wonderful and adorable little surprise which is going to peek its way out of the fireplace. This video is a little on the longer side as it is a big project, but hopefully I've broken down the steps for you in a nice and simple way so that you can see how to put together each piece one at a time and then put it all together to make the final chimney and fireplace design. So if you're up for a challenge this Christmas, let's get started at making our Santa Chimney Advent Calendar. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Christmas Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas24. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas24 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Christmas Craft Countdown, plus lots of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. This is what the SVG looks like when it's loaded into Cricut Design Space. Now, if you're not sure how to get to this point, check out the schedule page for the Christmas Craft Countdown, and within there is a Foundation Learning section near the top of the page. That contains lots of helpful links to tutorials and videos to help you throughout this countdown, and one of those is on how to upload SVGs to Cricut Design Space. You might be wondering what's going on with my screen because you can't actually see the design. All you see is this pink box with some resizing information. That's because this design is so big that it's not really fitting on my screen. You can zoom out to see more of the design by pressing the arrow buttons down here. I'm going to go all the way so you can see there are loads and loads of pieces. We need to do a few little bits in Design Space before this is ready to cut. And we'll start by looking at that pink rectangle. Design Space recently had a change to it, which meant that any designs bigger than 12 inches were automatically being resized down to 12 inches when they were uploading. And that was causing problems when I was testing out this chimney advent calendar because it was loading into Design Space at the wrong size. I think that Cricut have reversed that change now because now, as I was doing it for this video, it's loading incorrectly. But just in case, I thought I'd put this box in to tell you the size to make it in Design Space just to make absolutely sure that it is correct. So it says resize to 65 inches wide and 100 inches tall. Then delete this pink rectangle. So first I'll click the design and then check that my width is 65 and my height is 100, which it is. If yours hasn't loaded in at that size, then change these boxes to fit. Then we'll delete the pink rectangle by clicking the design to select it, then press the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel to separate out all of the pieces. Click away, then click to that rectangle, and then click the trash can icon at the top of the Layers panel, or you can press the Delete key on your keyboard. Now we know that everything is the correct size. Along the top of the row, we've got the fireplace, which will be our layered cardstock design, and then under there are all of the boxes which are required to add the sweets into to make up the little daily treat boxes. Rather than have score lines on these particular boxes, I've changed it to have little dashed cut lines in instead. So you don't need to do anything with these boxes. Your Cricut will automatically do little tiny cut lines in the sides, and then we'll use that to know where to fold them, rather than having to format score lines on 24 individual boxes, which would have been very, very time consuming. However, that wasn't suitable for all of the project because I did find that adding the little dashed lines rather than an actual score line with a Cricut scoring stylus or scoring wheel did kind of weaken the card along those joins. So I couldn't do that for the main structure of the chimney because otherwise it wouldn't have been as solid and as secure. So there are still some lines that do require a scoring tool for. Scroll down here and you'll see where we've got our Santa Claus, and this is our first few shapes which have score lines on them. So I'll click on one of these and then you see it selected it in the layers panel over here. I can click the little arrow to open up this group, and there are two layers within this group, one which looks for solid vertical lines and one which is a red rectangle. Click on the solid lines and then under Operation, change it to Score. Then in the Layers panel, click to select that group again. You see I've got those two layers selected, and then down the bottom of the Layers panel, press Attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut where to do the scoring for that particular piece. Then I'll click on the next one, do a very similar thing, open up that little group, click on the vertical lines, change it to Score. Click to select the group and press Attach. And then I'll do the same for these two pieces underneath too. So click it, open up the group. This time it's a horizontal line. Change it to Score. Click to select both of them and Attach. And then there's one more piece over here. Click, find the group, open it up. This time it's sort of two horizontal lines. Change to Score, click to select the group, and Attach. There are a couple of dashed lines in Santa's tummy you might notice. These aren't actually score lines, that's just little guidelines so that we'll know where to stick everything together, so ignore all of those. Let's move along, and now we've got more shapes with lines on that we need to score. You can either work out which pieces need to score by just looking in the design and clicking them and seeing if it comes up in a group like this one, or you could start at the top of the Layers panel and just scroll all the way down. Keep going until you come to something that's in a group. So at the moment, this is all those treat boxes, and then I would come to this one next. So I could open that up, click on the first layer, change it to Score, click on that one, and then Attach. The only problem with doing it that way is that when you attach something, it moves it to the top, so then you'd have to scroll all the way back down again to find your place to know which bit to do next. So it is kind of easier to just work through it on the screen and sort of click through each bit and go through and turn it into a score line. I'm not going to do every single shape in this video because that would take quite a long time. There are loads of things that will need to be changed. So all of these red pieces here, those all have score lines on them. And then all of the pieces underneath, these each have score lines on them too. So you'll need to work through each of these shapes separately, format the score lines and attach them to the piece underneath. When you've done that, save your project by pressing Save and then give it a name. That way, if you're not ready to cut this out right now, or if you want to make another one another day, it means you've got all of the scoring saved, so you won't have to do all the formatting again. It will all be ready and waiting for you. This design does require 12 by 12 inch cardstock to cut at the size that I cut it out at, so it is only suitable for the Explore Air 2 or 3 or the Maker or Maker 3. If you want to make it on the Cricut Joy Extra, you'll have to make it a bit smaller, but that should still be completely possible to do. I'm not sure exactly what size you'd need to make it, so you'd need to do some trial and error. However, just bear in mind that if you are making it smaller, it means your treat boxes will be smaller, so you might be limited to smaller chocolates or sweets or candy to go in them. This project is not suitable for the original Cricut Joy, which is the little blue machines. Unfortunately, that just cuts way too small for this to be able to be made on that machine. When you're happy with how everything's looking in Design Space, press Make over on the top and that will start separating everything out. Now, I haven't actually finished because I still have to do a load of my score lines, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. You'll know if you've done your score lines correctly because they'll all appear as little dashed lines and they'll be joined on to the relevant part underneath. And then this goes through all of the different pieces and colours. For some of the bits of the fireplace, you'll only need a small amount of each colour, so you could always use up some of your card scraps for those pieces. You can change the paper size by going into the drop down and selecting what you want. And then if you want to, you can click and drag to move them around. Just bear in mind that for some of the pieces that have big parts on, like this one, this isn't going to let you choose those smaller ones. For example, now it's not showing me US letter because it's too long. And for extra big pieces like this one, it won't let me choose A4 paper either because this is so big. You see, I've only got a very limited selection. So this would be one that you'd need your 12 by 12 for. So go ahead, get all your sheets looking as you want them to in Design Space once you've finished doing all those score lines, of course, and then get everything cut out from cardstock with your Cricut machine. Then we will begin the long but fun process of putting the whole thing together. One of the most time-consuming parts of this project is making up all the little boxes to hide your treats. They're a really good size to put in some sweets or chocolates or candy or something like that. Here's an example. This is from a pack of Celebrations chocolates here in the UK, and it fits really nicely in there. There's actually still a fair bit of room. You probably could even get 2 of these in there if you wanted to. And then they seal up so you won't get anyone sneaking out their chocolates before they're supposed to. And there's a number to go on each one as well. I'll show you how to make one of these boxes. These boxes come with dashed lines in them instead of scoring, just because otherwise you'd have had to format the score lines for 24 boxes in Design Space, which would have taken a long time. So for these ones where it doesn't matter so much about if you can sort of see a little bit of those dashed lines, I just thought this would be a little bit easier. So I'm going to turn this upside down and then fold in the tabs. Each one's got sort of a square and then a tab shape on it. That's folding inwards like that. And then for all the bits of the box, again, they all just fold upwards the same way along all those dashed lines. And you'll sort of see as you go how it starts already turning into that box shape. For these, you can either use double-sided tape or you can use glue. It's up to you. Obviously, tape has the advantage that you don't have to wait for it to dry, but I think that glue kind of does stick a little bit sturdier. If you wanted to make these boxes reusable year after year, then what you could do is glue or double-sided tape one of the tabs in, and then use a little bit of Velcro. So you'd put a little bit on there and then the matching side of the Velcro on there, and then you'd be able to put it in and pull it out, and then you wouldn't need to break the box when you open it. Whereas if you glue both sides, then to open it to get the treat out, you'll need to probably break it to get in. I've got some double-sided tape, which I'll run down top. I was just checking the side, the top of here. And my tabs. Oops. I went a bit too far over there. Let's just move that the right side of the cut line. To to make it a little sturdier than just having tape, you can add a bit of glue on top. That way you get the benefit that the tape will stick it straight away, but the glue will then dry and hold it a bit more sturdily. So let's fold this up, fold it into a rectangle shape. I need to wiggle it about a bit to get nice straight upwards edges. And then one side over, tuck the tab in. And a way to sort of get it to make sure it's going to stick is to gently push down on one side where you've got the glue here, and also push in the inner side. So you're sort of holding that onto the glue until it dries enough that you can let go. I put my glue on both tabs at the same time, but you may wish to do one, get that side stuck, and then add the other one. Depends how long it's going to take to stick. And then I'll put my chocolate in, fold this other one up, stick that one in too. Then I can hold them both at the same time while it dries. Each of the numbers come with a white bit underneath and then the number to go on top. If it's after 10 and upwards, then the white contains the shape of both. I highly recommend laying out all of your gold pieces on top of the white before you start sticking. And then before you start sticking, just make sure that you do have numbers 1 through 24. I was doing my sticking, and then I realised that one of my bits I had 28, and I thought, hang on, that's not right, it's only supposed to go up to 24, what's happened? But it turns out that it should have been 23, but I'd moved the 3 on one of the white pieces that should have been an 8, so I had those mixed up. Luckily I realised before I glued it down though. So yes, that's why I'm not just randomly saying that's recommended to lay it out first. I am very much speaking from experience. So I'll just glue that on there. I've already done all the others, so I've just got the number 1 to show you. Also be careful with 1s and 7s because they look fairly similar. And then you can put these on the boxes in one of 2 ways. You can either add them on the end, in which case when your box is threaded through, the numbers will be on the outside. And if you're going to do that, just remember that there'll be 2 boxes next to each other in the advent calendar. So you'd want your odd numbers to be over on the left, and then your even numbers would be on the right side. So when they're put together, it's all going to match up. Or you can do what I'm going to do, which is to add the numbers on the front. And again, we're going to kind of do opposites for odds and evens. So I'm going to put my odd numbers lining up on the right-hand side here and my even numbers on the left side, so that when these are put into my advent calendar, you'll see both of them in the front. You could also put them in the middle and that would be okay, but I don't recommend putting them on the side closest to your edges, because otherwise it will get covered up by the sides of the chimney and you won't see it. So I guess that's kind of 3 options in total. Either on the ends on the little squares, directly in the middle, or here and here, so that when they're joined together you'd have the 1 like that, and then the 2 would be there, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. all the way down until 24. Let's go ahead and get all of your little boxes done and stuck together and the numbers added on. Or if you want to, you can leave them without the numbers for now and then wait until you've actually threaded them into the chimney and then add the numbers. That way you don't need to worry about which box goes in the chimney in which order if you do the numbers once they're all already stacked. So lots of different options depending on how you want to do it. Next up, let's glue the pieces of the Santa together. Now, this looks like a really weird long shape with a super long body, but that's because this middle bit will be hidden behind parts of the chimney, so once he comes out the bottom of your fireplace, he will look like he's all in proportion. There are quite a few pieces to the Santa, and they all kind of go onto the black piece so that nothing overlaps. And it was done this way to make sure that it doesn't get so thick that Santa can't slide down the gap in the back of the chimney. So what I would do first is to kind of get all the pieces together and lie them out where they're going to go. I'm doing him this way round just so that I can fit them all on the camera screen. And then stick them together once you've got everything into place. And then I've got his face bits over here, so you can sort of see how it all just slots in so that it's touching but without any overlap, and that's how he'll end up looking. There are some little cut lines on his tummy in this red bit and also in the black piece at the bottom. You can ignore those for now because those are for adding on the extra tabs, which I'll do in a moment once all this is glued, to know where to put the bits to hold him in place when he's going up and down the chimney. But now that I have all those pieces where they need to go, let's start gluing them. Don't use any foam squares for this. You don't want dimension to it. This is one where we want it to be as flat as we can so he can pass freely up and down the chimney. These two little white bits for his feet are different sizes. They're not the same, so make sure you've got them the right way round. And then I'm going to just build him up from his feet to his head, getting all these pieces glued on. He does look super strange before he's put in the advent calendar. Then we've got the little thin bit making up the bottom of his top. Bottom of his top, bottom of his jumper. Outfit. You know what I mean. And now the next bit is a gap for the belt, so I think I'll leave that one for now and start from the head so that I can make sure everything's going to line up from the head. And do his red first. It's going to go right up against where the hat bobble goes. I'm going to cheat and do this because that's quite a small piece. There, and then his face, his beard bit to go on next. This pushes right up against the red. You can also use the black bit underneath to line it up. Then his top. This pushes up against the beard. And by doing it that way, we just know we've got the right sized gap here. And then there are two bits for his face. Got his main head, and then a bit of a rosy nose. He's been out in the cold and then all of a sudden going down a nice warm fireplace. There. Alright, so then there are 3 extra pieces you'll need to attach to Santa. One of them is this red square bit, and then 2 of them are these thin kind of rounded corner rectangles. They've each got 2 score lines down them, 2 down here, and this red one has got 1 score line down it. I'll fold down that one first. It's not quite in the middle, it's slightly off, and then the other 2 fold down as well. These are going to create the tabs that hold him in the chimney. So these 2 long, thin ones sort of go on the back, and that's what allows him to slide when the treat boxes are taken out each day. And then the square one, goes on his front to stop him falling down when you take out the boxes. So they help keep him balanced on top so that he doesn't fall down all the way to the bottom before he's supposed to. And because we've done them in the same colour as his top, they blend in quite nicely. So I'm actually going to fold mine the other way. Because I've used textured card, it's pretty on one side, and I want the pretty side to be the one that you'll see. So that'll be the one that's facing upwards. Glue to the back of the smaller side up to the score line. And then this will line up along the two teeny tiny cut lines in his tummy. So we've got one here and one here. They're just to show you where to line the score line up. There, so you see that blends in really nicely. Like that. Then for the two back ones, these won't be seen, so it doesn't really matter which way round they go. But these are going to be glued back to back along the smallest bit in the middle. So we'll glue these to each other first. And this might take a moment to dry. I want to make sure it's nice and dry before we do the next bit. And turn Santa over. And along the back, you've got two tiny cut lines. It's really hard to see because they're black. But there's a vertical line here and a horizontal one along there. And that's where we'll line these up. So add glue down one of the sides. And then line it up along those lines. My card didn't actually cut all the way through, which isn't very helpful. So there's another cut line up here. So there's two vertical ones. So let's line up in the middle of those so that the middle of the two bits where we glued them together lines up equally along these top and bottom vertical lines. And this is the shape it kind of ends up with. Got these two bridges back to back. And that's how he's looking from the back. And this is how he's looking from the front. And that's Santa done until we finish the chimney. I just want to draw your attention back to the screen in Design Space and to another part of the design which you didn't see me put on my Santa just then. And that's because when I did my video, I didn't have this piece in the design. So what I found when I put my design together that you're watching me do in this video is that when I got to the end, I was finding that my Santa was sliding all the way down behind the boxes because the shelf that we put on the tummy wasn't quite strong enough to hold it in place. I think the reason for that is that the red card that I've used is very lightweight, so it just wasn't quite strong enough to rest on top of the boxes and preventing the Santa from going down when it's supposed to. So the file's been tweaked, so the one that you've got is this tweaked version, and you'll have noticed when I did the scoring at the beginning of this video that you had this little extra piece here. This is to make a bridge to go on top of the little part on his tummy. So it's going to make little triangle shapes to go across it, and that means that it definitely won't fall down when it's not supposed to. But once those boxes are pulled out every day throughout Advent, then he will fall down and it will still work really nicely. So this piece can just be used to add extra support to the middle of the Santa. How you would do it is you would fold down on these two score lines and then stick it on top of the bridge piece, which is this piece that goes out over his tummy. So you'd put tape down two of those, both tabs, up to the score line, and then stick it on top of the bit on his tummy. I'll show you some images on the screen now of how it looks after I'd stuck it all together. So this is how it looks with the little bridge on top. You can see how those tabs go in to make that little triangle effect, and that just means he stays really, really sturdy on top of those boxes. He's not going to drop down and come out the fireplace when you don't want him to. I just wanted to make sure that you saw that little extra bit now, but that is the Santa Claus finished. Once you've added that extra piece in, now we can move on to the next part of the fireplace. It's time to start making the chimney. First, we'll be gluing together these two black parts that make up the back of the chimney. However, first I would just say about these red bits. Now, these are kind of the same, but in opposite directions. So we'll have one for the left of our chimney and one for the right. And you can tell which one is which because some of them have a square cut out of them So all of these ones here that I've got have got a square cut out of them. And we end up with, I think, 1 piece, 2, 3, 4. Not necessarily in this order. I'm just trying to show you everything that there is. Then there's 5 and 6, also in red with the square. And then 7. So 7 bits in total with a square. And then you also have kind of the same, but these ones have got a circle taken out of them instead. So these ones have got a circle and it's over on the right hand side, whereas all the squares are on the left. So again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So go ahead and get all of your square and circle pieces separated and put in separate piles so that you know when you put them together you're not accidentally going to put the wrong ones. Otherwise it's not going to work. So I've got my 2 piles there, and we'll start with sticking together the black. So there are 2 pieces here. It's got score lines down either side. And then we've got one bit that's got tabs. This is the bottom. And then the one that has the open legs and then the other side is flat, this will be for the top. I'm going to glue them together before I fold up the score lines. The one with the tabs here should go on the bottom and you stick the other one on top. And the reason for that is that then you end up with a nice smooth bit down here, which is how Santa's going to come down the chimney. Just bring my Santa back. So he's going to fall down the middle of the chimney here. If you glued it the other way round and put the tabs on that way, when Santa gets to that tab, it's going to jam on the card and won't slide down nicely. So that's why it's important that those tabs go at the bottom. Add some glue down to where the end of the tabs go. So you're kind of lining it up with this little point of the triangle. And then I'll stick this on top. So it's the open side. That's the bit that goes on. And then take your absolute time and care here to make sure that it lines up so that we've still got straight lines on your score lines. And also this little cut down the middle is straight and vertical and goes upwards. You want to try and keep everything in a real straight line. So then you end up with this kind of shape with the 2 little triangles cut out where it's met. If you wanted to, you could fold the tabs before it's stuck together. It doesn't really matter. But to fold it, turn upside down. And then once it's upside down, fold upwards along all those tabs. I've used a really thick card, so it's a little tricky to get it. Hold that back. If you've got a brayer or a scraper tool or even a rolling pin from the kitchen, that's handy just to go down. Make sure that's really well folded. So it will be going upwards like that. And then I've got the one on this side. And then the same for the 2 the other side. Check I didn't dislodge any of that glue because I did do it a little bit before it was dry, but that is looking good. So then this can go to one side and then choose either the square or the circle pieces to work on next. Next, we'll make up the sides of the chimney, and these end up really big. So I'm not going to be able to fit it on my camera very easily unless I do it landscape. So I'm going to cut it, stick it together this way round, but you might find it easier to do it this way as that's actually the way that it will go into the advent calendar when it's all finished. So I've already done all my pieces that have the circle cutouts, but I'll show you how to do it with the ones with the square, and it's exactly the same process for both of them. So this is kind of what you end up with. It's essentially sort of two boxes that are then joined together with a front panel. And then there's a few extra tabs in here which we'll use later on in the process. So what you'll need is your 7, I think it was 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 pieces that all have the square taken out of them. And then look in the smaller bits of red that you've got. You'll have 2 bits that look like this and 2 bits that look like this. Both of these have got score lines on. And you'll need one of each of these for the square piece, and then the other ones will be used for the circular piece. And these, I'm not sure I'll be able to show you, those little pieces are what goes in the top here to sort of seal off the gaps at the top of the chimney. What I've done here is a little guide to help me stick this together. As the chimney is so tall, we're sticking multiple bits of card together to create the height, and it's really important that you keep the same gap in the middle here all the way down. And in order to help me do that, when I was sticking the bits together, I drew a little guide on a piece of paper, and I recommend doing this. It makes it much easier and it will be more reliable to make sure you're putting everything right. So what I've just done is gone from the edge of the card or the paper and measured 4 centimetres at the top and bottom, and then drawn a line. So I know that this gap is 4 centimetres all the way down, and that is the gap that we need for the pieces. We'll start with this piece and also this piece. This has got just 1 score line down the tab there. And you'll also need this piece, which also just has 1 score line down that tab there. And I'm going to line this up along my little guide so that this side, this little gap, is right up against the paper. And then the one this side is following my line, my 4 centimetre line. And then these 2 bits will be glued underneath. I'll start with this one, go down to there. And then line that up so it's really straight. Get that stuck. You can also see if it's straight by looking at the score lines down both of these 2 pieces. Make sure they're all aligned. Then, same for this side. Add some glue down to the end of that sort of tabbed area at the top. And then this goes underneath. We want to make sure everything is still lined up on the left. And then move that until it covers all of that tab section. And then this side also needs to line up with that 4 centimetre line. Just moving it about a little bit. I don't need this anymore. Well, you would need it if you were then going to do the other side. So your bit with the circles instead of the square. So don't throw it away yet. Just keep it to one side. We can also do the gluing for these pieces. So you've got 2 bigger bits and 2 thinner bits. I've got one here. This is going to go over those tabs. So all your score lines will line up with the score lines on this one. Line that up straight. Make sure all your lines continue. Oops, didn't mean to smush my glue then. Make sure all your lines continue nice and straight once it's stuck together. That one. And then the ones with the thinner bits. Put those at the bottom. Then we're lining this up. We've got the square on the right hand side. So this will line up over the top here. Oops. Once again, get that as straight as you can. So I'm sort of lining it up along the tops. You can see the line in between these little tabs. So you can line it up against those lines. And then just make sure you've got the continuous score lines between the two. While all that glue's drying, get these two pieces and then fold upwards along all those score lines. So this is the front of my piece. Just kind of bending it. You know what? I've just realised that's the wrong piece. We don't need this piece yet. What I meant to show you was these two pieces. These are the two pieces we need. It's very confusing, lots of similar red bits. Okay, so it's these bits that have each got 4 little tabs on each side, so they'll be folded down to make a square with the tabs on every side. At least I realise now. The bad thing is I've literally just made one of these to do the other side, so I really should have realised I had the wrong bit in my hand. Alright, so that's those 4 bits all folded up. Bring the original bit in that we stuck together and turn it upside down. I'm going to make this a little easier for you in the video by just adding a little front and back sign to what I'm sticking. Obviously it's red on both sides, so it's a little hard to see the difference. So if I just masking tape these on, squeeze that tape, you'll be able to see a little bit easier which one I'm doing. So this is my front, and then actually, because this is the bottom, let's do it that way round, and then the back. If you're worried about getting your front and back mixed up, then you could do something similar. Just make sure you choose a tape that isn't going to mark your card when you take it off. Okay, so now you can see which one is my front and which one is the back. I've got my back facing upwards, and I'm going to go down all of the score lines and fold upwards towards myself. If you've got a thick card or textured card like I've got, it might be hard to see where those score lines are. So be careful and go accurate as you can. And it's really helpful if you have a brayer tool to go down them, or a scraper tool, anything similar, to get a really strong, crisp fold. That will help everything go together a little better. And remember, your score lines continue across both the bits that we glued together. I'm going to go down that side too. Brayer it down. There's also this little tab in here, which can be folded inwards, and this one along the bottom. And then we've got the same on this side to come up. It's handy if you've got lots of room on your work surface, because it's a big bit of card. Okay, that's all the ones for the main piece, and then I'm going to do the same with these two, turn them upside down and fold upwards along all of the score lines. I've now got these two pieces all folded upwards along all of those score lines, so now we can stick it together. Turn your main piece around so that you're seeing the front, and then open up those score lines, those flaps, so that we can add some glue and double-sided tape. Turn it back, so now I'm back on the back, and get your 2 little pieces. We've got one for this side, one for this side. Position these so that the front is facing upwards towards you. This is the top side. And then for the bigger one, go down any one of the larger tabs. Doesn't matter which side because it's symmetrical. And then this will glue up against your line here. It lines up with the top of the bit of card. I'll turn it around to show you in a minute. Okay, so I didn't do a very good job of that straight away. So it's basically joined onto that top here. Here it is. So eventually it will sort of fold over. And then the same on this one. Get your little square. And then go down any of the sides. And do the same thing. Glue it on there. Make sure it lines right up along the top. Straight as you can make it. Now turn your piece around, so now it's the front, and get some glue or double-sided tape. I'll do my smaller one first. Double-sided tape, I'm going to run down this entire side, just the tab up to the score line. Double-sided tape is great for the initial stick, but on the bits where the tape hasn't quite hit the bit of card, now add some glue. That'll give a better overall stick once the glue's dry. Take your smaller piece here and then we'll line it up so that we've got one of the larger edges along here. So not the one with the triangle cut out, the one that's nice and straight. And glue this on top up to the score line all the way along. You might need to wiggle it about a bit to get it exactly in place the whole way up. And don't be afraid to move it around to get a better view if you need to check that's all nicely stuck. Alright, and the same on the other side. Down the tabs with tape and a bit of glue. Get your other box shape and open it out. And once again, we're sticking the straight edge on top of these bits. Not the bit with the triangle cut out, the straight one. It goes up to the score line, all the way to the top. Right, I'm now going to turn this upside down. So now I've got my back showing. And now each of these sides will sort of fold over itself. And then the tabs that you've got with that little triangle will fold all the way around and glue to the bit underneath. So we're effectively making a box which will line up along that piece there. And once it's all stuck down, it will line up exactly. I'm just sort of trying to roughly show you here. So it'll fold all around, kind of like that. So it gives us a 3D cube all the way down. I'll fold my tabs in on the end and do my tape and glue trick again. Fold it round. So we're making a square, and then that tab with all the glue, it's going to glue to this edge all the way down and also come down here. I might just need to move my back message over a bit. You want to try and make sure that your sides are nice and vertical. So it may need a little bit of wiggling about, and then it should line up as close as you can get to the line on that bottom piece. Sort of pushing down and wiggling it to make sure those sides are a 90-degree angle. Then holding in place for that glue to dry. Running your hand up and down it as it dries helps to keep the pressure on to stop it coming off. Also just make sure you've definitely got everything right. If you want to, you can carefully turn it upside down And see, that didn't work out well for me because that's come unstuck. But you could also push it down from this side if you feel that that's going to give you a better stick on that tab. I think mine was working better before I turned it round. Now it's all coming off. Alright, so I'm going to probably be here for a couple of minutes, just waiting for this to get really, really well stuck. So I'll pause the video recording until that's done, and then we'll do the other side. I've got my double-sided tape and a little bit of glue down the tab on the other side, and we're going to fold it round exactly like we did on this one. This time it's a bit different because this one looked quite cube-like, all the sides were the same height, whereas this one you've got two thin sides and then two that are a little bit bigger. But it's still going all the way round, and then that tab will stick along the line on that bottom bit. We get it into place, get those sides nice and vertical, and then hold down until the glue's dried. I think this is the trickiest part of the whole build, putting these little boxes in place, just because they're so long. I haven't done a very good job of lining that up that side. Can help to sort of stick your fingers in one side and hold the tab down, get it really pushed down in. Can't really do that on the smaller one, but the bigger one you can. Okay, excellent. Now we've got these two bits, fold in the tabs on these and then add some glue to all of the tops of it. Zoom in a little for this bit. Now I've got these two bits on the end. I'll fold those tabs all inwards and add some glue on them. And then, actually I'll do this one first because the little boxes had more time to dry. Big dab of glue on them. And then tuck it into the hole. I want my sides to then stick to each of the sides of the box. This is making a kind of top, a level top that we'll use for the top part of the chimney, so it's got something to be glued onto. These definitely needs to be held until the glue's dry because those tabs just try and come out. You can see as I let go, it's popping out again. I'm going to keep that there. Wondering if I've got anything, maybe my double-sided tape. Just hold it in place. We'll see. I figure if I can do this one at the same time, then I can hold them both. Cut my drying time in half. Hold it down onto the glue. Hold that one with that hand, that one with that hand, and wait for the glue to dry. That's all dry now, so we've got one of the sides here, the one we've just stuck together with all the squares, and then you would repeat that for the other one with the circle cut out. So it's exactly the same process, it's just everything's reversed. So this time your bigger bit is on the left, whereas on the one we've just stuck, the smaller bit was on the left. So you can follow along, go back in this video and follow along with the same steps to make the other one. Then you'll have two of these. And then we've also got this piece we made earlier. So we are getting there now. Next, we're going to make up the structure piece to support the front fireplace. Move those out the way. So we've got these two pieces. And then there are two pieces like this that look the same. They've got two score lines down each one. And then a long thin bit with tabs on each side. It's a little bit taller than those. And then one piece that looks like that. Don't confuse this piece with the two smaller ones that you've also got left. So the one we're using for this fireplace bit is the biggest bit. You see I've put one of those smaller ones on. It's quite a bit smaller. They're not the ones you need right now. You need the big one. Alright, so we'll start by folding up along all those score lines. Turn this upside down to go down it. Get sharp creases, 2 of these. And then this one's got the tabs on the short sides. I won't worry about brayering them as they're so small. And then this one has just got one right on that edge. Done. The fireplace bits also have a tab along the top. So fold that inwards too. So this is the front. I folded it upwards. Okay. So how this is going to work is these 2 bits, one tab will go down that side, and then we'll do the same on the other side, and then the second big fireplace bit will glue along what's left. I think I'll just go for tape on this one as it's a bit smaller. One of those, and the other one. So I want to make sure the bottom stays nice and straight. Don't go over the edge of the bottom, otherwise it's not going to stand up. Measure corner to corner, and then get this lined right up along the edge, as straight as you can. Push down, and then the same on the other side. That was not straight in the slightest. I'm going to start that bit again. There we go. And it's probably going to be easier to do this bit as well. I'll open this out and add my tape along the top tab. And stick that one on. So I'm lining up the score lines on this new bit here and here with where we've stuck the tabs on the main fireplace. And oh, that was terrible. Tape down those tabs. Right. So these tabs will fold inwards, and then you'll fold side back on it, a little bit like you're making a box. Tab in and fold that out there, and then these tabs, oh, very sticky, fold down. This one will go on top. Just folding that one on. Probably would have been easier to do this bit first, actually. But I've committed now. Because that needs to go under there. So yeah, if I fold those back up, probably should have done this bit before sticking the sides in, but it's still going to work. Along the score line. Then I can just bring it down one at a time and line up with the tape on those tabs. That actually worked out pretty well. Okay, get all that tape nice and stuck. Then we've got this. This remaining bit I'm going to leave for now, but just keep it with the front so that you know you've got it. Now we're going to start putting everything together. Take your side piece with the circle cutouts and position it on your left, and it's round the way so that the bit that joins these two kind of boxes together is flat against your work surface. And then the same for the square one. So the shorter box is on the left this time. The bit that joins those two together is flat against your work surface. So we've got the two smaller bits next to each other. Then bring in your black piece that we did, and we've got these tabs. These are going to stick to the edges of the thicker rectangles on each side where it's closest to the middle. So it'll be one on like that with those tabs, and then this one will go on top like that. And do it one at a time, nice and slowly. Folded that tab in. Do the tape and glue trick again. All the way down one. So this is the circle piece. It's going to go along here. Line it up as close to the edge as you can. I'm running out of space. Take that way around. Try and make sure it doesn't go over the edge in any places. So just be lined up along it, all that way. And then it's going to do the same on this one. So it'll be this way round to stick this on. I've got the flat side will face upwards. This is the one with the squares. It probably would have been easier if I'd have added my tape before I stuck it to the other one. So I'll just glue it this time. I'm going to turn this upside down. Do it this way. Just checking that's the right way round. Yeah. So this is flat against my work surface. And it's going along the edge of that thicker box. It doesn't really want to stand. I'm using one hand here to balance the weight of what's already done. Just realised that's come unstuck that side. You can't see, it's off the camera. Right. This is what we've got now. Everything's a little bit wibbly wobbly at the moment, so let's start giving it some stability. With these two thin bits with tabs on each side, I folded the tabs up and added some double-sided tape. And these go on the back. So turn that over. These are going to join one side of the bottom and also the top. I'll just put one of those on there, on the inside, and then join it up to the other side. So we're sort of making a bridge along that bottom. Same on this side. One up against there. And then that should be nice and straight. So it'll straighten out a bit once everything else is putting it in position. But at least now it's got a little something to hold in place, even if it is still buckling a little right now. Not going to worry too much about that at the minute. Alright, turn it back around this way. Next, we're going to add in the fireplace, and ignore the fact that I have a load of glue on the top of mine. I just put a bit on and then realised I was doing it in the wrong order, so I'm re-recording that bit. Alright, so the fireplace kind of slots in underneath the two thinner boxes along the bottom. And when you put this in, it's important that it does glue directly to the back side of those thin boxes. Do not glue it up against the black or up against the top of the larger boxes. If you do that, your Santa won't be able to slide down. So we're going to be putting it in and just sort of pulling it upwards so it touches against these bits. So I'll add some glue down the side of the front. Doesn't really matter which one is the front and back because they are same on both sides. My glue all the way along there. And then carefully slide it in. And then once it's in and tucked under, there we go. Slide it right down to the bottom so it's going to line up with the bottom of the black bit, but then pull it upwards so it glues to the bottom of your little boxes on both sides. Try and turn it round so you can see. So it's gluing to the backs, this side of the thinner little squares. And hold it upwards as it dries. It's really important it doesn't fall backwards onto that black. You can pick it up if you want, if you think that'll help it to dry. It's another one of those where you just kind of got to wait for it to go. Starting to look more fireplacey now. We've also got these two tabs along the top which can be glued to the top of the fireplace. This is again just kind of to help hold it in place. Nope, you definitely can't see if I do it that way. This is so hard. How am I going to show you this? Okay, you can sort of see that back one. Oh, this is such an awkward angle. Okay, and my glue. And then tuck that in on top of the fireplace. Like that. There, you can see that. And then there's another one the other side, which you can't see. Ah, there we go. So that's tucking in there. And hopefully you can see actually the gap here where the fireplace is not touching up against the black. See, there's space in there. And then the bit that I glued on earlier then realised was wrong is this bit on top of the fireplace. So this now goes in on top to cover up those flaps that we just put in. So now I can glue it just along the big rectangle. So just that back bit there. And then that will sit on top here. Again, make it far forward, as far forward as you can. It neatens it up a little. Also, it will give us this tab here to help hold the front of the fireplace on. Right, we're looking good. We'll give it some extra stability with a base along the bottom. And that is this piece here. So we've got two flaps along the bottom already. These will tuck in and they'll be glued to the underside where there aren't any flaps at the moment. So it'll go this way round. And then you'll have one flap at the moment that won't be touching anything. This will again help to hold on the pretty cardstock fireplace. I've added lots of glue to those two bottom flaps. And then one of the flaps on this piece, which will be the one I attached to the little bridge down there. And then just line that one up. Can get it all nice and straight now. This piece is great for straightening out any wonky edges. So you might have to pull it and hold it into position to keep those edges straight as it dries. I'm squishing that all in so it fits to the size of the square. And it's not dry yet, so this will be hard to show, but you can sort of see how I'm covering up all of that base with that square. We're so nearly there with the build now. We've just got the top to do, and then that's the main structure of the fireplace all finished. Then the one last thing will be to build up the fireplace design on the front with all of the layers of cardstock, and then add all of the day-to-day boxes. We're nearly there. Okay, so here are all the pieces for my rooftop part of the chimney. I've cut it from a glittery white card, which is nice. This is the main bit. I'm going to turn it upside down and then fold upwards along all of the score lines. That's all of those folded up, and then each of these sort of folds over to make its own self-contained side on the back of the roof. So the very last little tab on that last score line is the bit that will be glued or foam double-sided taped, so they'll all fold over like that and stick into position. So it all kind of folds round, and then the tab that you've put the tape on will go flat along there. Try and line up along the edge so you get a sort of straight edge with the bit that you can see going in here. There we go. That took a couple of attempts, but we got there looking neat in the end. That's all of those folded in, and then we've got the solid square bit to go on top, and this will help pull it all together to make it nice and properly square. Let's do this with tape as well. Okay, so this goes in on the bottom and sort of pull in the corners so that they're flush with each other as you get it to stick. I've gone over the edge with my tape here, so I'll just tuck it around on itself. Neaten it up. Okay, let's hold those two in tight and add that on. Pull those ones in. There. That is the bottom. Next we've got 4 bits of snow to go around the edge. This is 2 different designs. So we'll put them on opposite sides to each other. This time I'll do it with some glue. Add the glue all the way around the side. And add one of the pieces. So you should do it so that it kind of overlaps a little bit on the top. Like that. You can see it overlapping here. Just sort of hides the top a little bit. And then I'll do the other side, opposite side, with the same pattern. And then the opposite sides, the other sides with the other pattern of snow. That's the top section done. And then you can either glue it onto your top of the advent calendar on here, so add some glue to all of these bits, or you can just rest it on the top and it will sort of go on in all of those bits of snow, which will hold it in place. So I'm going to just let mine hold itself in place when that glue is dry. Here are all the parts of my fireplace, and your download folder contains an assembly guide to show you the order to put all the pieces together in, but I've laid them roughly one on top of the other following that guide so I can check I'm happy with all the colours and I haven't missed any pieces along the way. We'll start at the bottom and then work upwards, so I'll move these pieces apart and try and keep them in roughly the same order, seeing as I've gone to all of that effort. I'll start with my very dark blue piece, and then on top of that goes the orange for the candle flames. And this one I'm going to stick on with, I think, just glue for this one. I'm not going to add too much depth in terms of foam squares because we've already got quite a bit of depth in our chimney. So we don't need to add an awful lot more with the fireplace. Glue that on top, and it just sort of shows a little bit around the inside to look like the inner grate on the fireplace. And then next is the lighter yellow piece for the little bits of flame in the middle, which will also be glued. Next up is this red piece, which will also glue. And then the darker red to make up the brickwork, which, you've probably guessed it, will be glued. We'll move on to the foam squares very soon. Next, glue on the little piece that has the clock hands cut out of it. Sort of struggling to see where that lines up actually. Just gonna check with the next bit. Okay, I'm confusing myself because there's little gaps in between the holly there, but then it gets covered up. So I will actually remove those little gaps before you get the file, so that you don't have that problem. Move on to foam squares now to put on this piece. I think I've actually put that a little bit too far down. It should line up more with the top. Like that. There we go. So then that will cover it up. I'm going to alter this piece for when you get it to make that a little easier to stick together. Okay. It will still look mostly the same. It will just have more of the shape of what's already there. So you can see it a bit easier than me because I struggled with that. Sometimes what looks fine on the computer screen, by the time it's cut out, doesn't quite work as well as one might hope. Peeling the tops off of these foam squares to get at the stickiness. And then put this on top, so this will start to bring out some of the dimension. Then next up is the creamy colour on top. This one will be glued. Then we've got the outline of the clock. Again, another glue layer. For the holly leaves, I'm going to add some foam squares directly to here to get a little bit of pop on these ones. And then glue the berries straight on top. For the first piece of the surround, I'll add this one on with foam squares. The next piece with these little cutouts will be glued on. And then one more lot of foam squares for the little strip along the bottom. For the two stockings on the front, these are made up of 4 pieces each. We've got a solid colour, then a white, then a darker colour, then a little bit of white again. The white will first be glued onto the solid colour. The green one faces left and the red one faces right in the design, but you can flip them round if your card is coloured on both sides, have them both pointed the same way if you want to, or you could even leave the stockings off entirely. It's up to you. Glue the darker one on top. There. And then foam squares for the snowy bit on top. I didn't do a very good job of lining that up. Try that again. I think that's my problem. It was the wrong bit. That lines up better. Okay, so I'll glue this one. And then foam square the fluff on. And then I'll foam square these to my fireplace. Put a foam square directly on there. Just kind of position it wherever. And one on the other side. And that's the layered cardstock portion finished. It needs to go onto the front of the chimney now. Lie it down. Here it is. All its glory. So it'll line up along the bottom where you've got this tab. Zoom out a little. There we go. Get it nice and flat so that your bottom is still straight. And it will go like that. Just want to double check. Yep, so I'm going to add my glue in line with the tab here so that I know it's not going to be visible. This is heavy with all the bits of cards, so lots and lots of glue, I think. There's all my glue on, so I can line this up and then push it down a little bit so it will stick. And I'm just going to leave it in this position until that glue is dry. But this is a great opportunity to put the Santa in. We've got the two slits on here. Push these together and then put them through the hole in the back with his head pointing downwards. I'll go in. You can see he'll slide. So once he's stood up, then that will go down exactly as we want it to. But say I'm not going to move this until the glue under my fireplace is dried. Here's the chimney with Santa in there and his little head poking out the bottom. Just want to show you how he should look from the back. So once you slot the two tabs in, fold them outwards to help hold him in place. So you sort of butterfly wing it out and then it will move up and down really easily. And then you can start adding in the boxes. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show you this very easily, it's just too big. But you'd start with 23 and 24 along the bottom. Let's move Santa up. You might find that his bobble on his hat catches when you're moving him up if he's gone all the way to the bottom. So if you're having trouble getting him out of the chimney, just check his bobble isn't catching. It'll be fine when he's sliding down on the different days. It's just if he's gone all the way to the bottom, that little bobble can catch. There he is. Okay, so he'll go all the way up to the top. And then you would do this upright, not lying down. And you just slide the boxes in. And they'll sit on top of the... you can see quite well actually. They'll sit on top of there. And then as you add them in, just make sure you move Santa up so he starts right up at the very top. So his head will be completely covered by all the boxes and you won't see that until the last few days when he goes into the fireplace. You'll just see his legs poking out the top. And it's going to look amazing when it's all filled. So well done if you managed to make it to the end of this super long and rather involved video. Possibly the most complex project I've ever done. Let me know in the comments if you agree. Even though it did take a long time to make and certainly a lot of cardstock and a ton of patience along the way, I'm so happy with how this project turned out. I think it's a really creative and original way to have an advent calendar and it's just fun to make really, and fun to kind of bring the boxes out every day and see what goodies you've got hiding inside them and watch Santa make his way down the chimney. As I said at the beginning, not all the projects in this Christmas craft countdown are going to be this involved. This is definitely the most complicated of all of them. However, I wanted to start with a bang and put this right at the beginning so you've got as much time to make it as possible before the 1st of December when you'll be starting your advent calendar. If you do make this project, I would love to see a photo in my Facebook group, or you can email sarah@craftwithsarah.com. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 2 of the Christmas Craft Countdown. Don't worry, that one's a lot easier. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!